Heyo, my Planet Coaster friends, Johnny5 Alive here, and welcome back to another episode of Coaster Spotlight. And in today's video, we're going to be looking at Launch Triple Synchronized Triangular Formation Coaster, the Delta Blaster, created by AdriaanVanS. So, stay tuned, and let's check it out. Alright, this was sent in by one of our Discord new builders and golden patrons. Thank you so much for your support, Adrian. You're helping to keep the show go on. And here he says, "Hello, Johnny. I am relatively new to the Planet Coaster and was messing around with some in-game career scenarios until I discovered your channel. Recently, I've been catching up with most of the content. Good luck with that." I think we're at over 1,000 Planet Coaster videos. Alright, and he says, "For my first blueprint, I felt inspired to make something unique and challenging using what I have learned from watching all of your videos. I wanted to take the synchronized dueling coaster concept, like your Chief Beef Raceway, a step further with 3 trains doing stunts while staying in formation as much as possible. I also wanted to create something futuristic without using too many of the in-game sci-fi items. Anyways, this is the results for you to consider for Spotlight. I hope you enjoy it and good luck with your channel." Alright, thank you so much, Adrian. And he is new to the community. He just joined a while ago and became a patron, so thank you so much for that, and welcome to the community. For everyone else, please do come join us. Links are down in the description on the information on how to join the community, and we would love to have you. Everyone is welcome. This is an interesting one. We're going to talk more about it in a sec once we kick the episode off. I'm actually really curious about this one, and I think it's quite a cool concept. Yes, let's delay no further and jump right on into it. Alright guys, so here we are. Here's a look at it here. Now, it is a crazy spaghetti mess, but it actually is a very unique design. It has some pretty cool things going on about it, and I really love this boarding station. This is his first creation ever. Very ambitious, and also the artwork gone into it is actually really darn cool. I mean, look at this boarding station. It looks like some sort of sci-fi Tesla cannon of some sort. Lots of really cool stuff going on in here with lasers and triggered events. This looks like an engine room that's shooting them out. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Even all these floating rings, they're not just floating, they're held up by supports. So good job making all these custom supports and stuff. And, while the coaster might not have supports itself, it kind of gives you this unique feeling that these rings, I mean, I guess this is sci-fi, but he's actually attached some pipes to hold them all in. So good job with that. But I honestly, I don't even think that would have been necessary, because you can kind of maybe consider this to be some sort of like magnet of some sort, just kind of holding everything together with, magnet energy of some sort. And that would have kind of sold me on it too. But nonetheless, he's added in his own pipes just to sell some little bit of realism there. So when he was talking about in the introduction, he watched my Chief Beef and tried to create a synchronized coaster. So the way this works, guys, is this is not a triple synchronized coaster in the game sense. This is one station. So these ones up here don't have a station, but they are all synchronized together, and it seems to be synchronized pretty darn perfectly. So I did do a tutorial on how you do this, and there are some benefits. There's pros and cons to doing it this way. I think it had the pros outweigh the cons, and it's a very unique way of building a synchronized coaster. The cons would be it's difficult to do. But if you watch my tutorial, and I show how to line up the tracks, and once you get the tracks lined up, it's not that complicated at all. It's a simple fundamental. However, when you're building the tracks, you might get lost, because this one here is the starting track, so that's technically your first lap, and because it's all one, you it scrambles your brain, and kind of it gets difficult to figure out where you're at. And another thing that makes it difficult is a coaster that's doing a small bend like this is going to get ahead, and a coaster that's doing a long bend like that is going to get behind. So in order to compensate for that, you need this track to go into the outside, and I think he's done that here. It comes out to the outside track, and now it's up top. So he's trying to pull some length out of it and make it the outside tracks, and make the other coasters on the inside so that they start getting ahead. So that this is still the original track on the very outside here. So now it's doing a longer loop, and then the others are doing in closer inversion, getting ahead again. So this one's going to start falling behind, and now they're going to come through here synchronized again. So in this case, it's going to be interesting to see how closely together these stay synchronized, because there's so many of them, and it's a tangled mess, and it's quite hard to pull off. So when I was doing my Chief Beef Raceway, I had an idea of doing like a Gulpy one that had 3, one for each Gulpy Soda, Gulpy Energy, and Gulpy Slushy, and having each track piece colored a different way, and having them kind of doing tricks more extreme like this. Because with the Chief Beef one, because I used the Sprint 500, I couldn't do inversions, and I couldn't do a lot of extreme things. So I had the idea of doing one that was a little bit more extreme like this. That would have been fun. So I'm actually really happy to see somebody took my concept that I did here. And, well, I guess I got to give original shout-out to RiddlerVanS. She was the first one to come up with it, and I just learned ways to improve upon it. It's cool to see this concept done with 3, and that is very impressive to me. So this is quite an interesting creation here today. So, anyways, enough of me rambling. We're going to take a peek at it at night. Actually, we're going to start it at night and give it a ride there, because there's lots of triggered events and lighting going on here. Now, before we look at the ride stats, I have to mention this to Adrian. You got some crazy sound going off here, and I've noticed this with the sequencer too. It makes some weird sound some reason, because there's no speaker. I looked for one. The sequencer itself will make sounds for some reason, and I don't know how to stop it. Mine was very subtle when I did my Cosmic Cow Collider ride skin, but I could hear something going off, and I couldn't figure out for the life of me how to turn it off. So if anyone knows, please leave a message down in the description, and maybe Adrian, you can fix that, because if you do put this down in your park, it's going to drive you nuts. Okay, so let's give this a ride, guys. Let's take a look at the stats first. Oh yeah, talking about the pros and cons again, is because it's one station, you get a lot of capacity out of it, and the riders get a lot of length for their buck. It ends up being pretty cool, and how many trains you have running on it, how many people you have going on and off. So in terms of it being one coaster and 3 trains, and you know, people just constantly getting on and off, it ends up being a pretty good money maker. Now you could argue that 3 separate coasters would produce more money, but it's a lot harder to set those stations up. This is one station. It's clean, super easy to do, and you don't have to worry about, okay, how's this one going to exit, how's this one going to have an entrance, and you have to worry about setting up 6 different pathways. So at the end of the day, it's easier to place down, and it's going to make you good money no matter what, and it's much more simplified than a, you know, crazy, chaotic 3 synchronized coasters. So lots of pros. And as long as you can wrap your head around it, it's very beneficial and fun. So I'd love to see more of these from you guys. Anyways, there's a look at the stats if you guys want to see them, and let's jump right on into it. All right, guys. Now, I got to talk about this a little bit before we go to daytime. As you guys saw there, we technically rode 3 different tracks. It felt like 3 different coasters. I did a different perspective for each rail, and but that was still one continuous coaster, start to finish. The whole thing you experienced was one coaster, and he did set it up properly. For a second there, I only thought there was 3 trains, and I was like, how did he load it up so fast without a wait time? He actually did it the exact way I did, the way I instructed it in my tutorial. There's actually 4 trains on this, so definitely lots of capacity on this coaster. So as you can see here, this one is actually ready to go. I'll turn it to daytime here so you can see a little bit better. This one's waiting, so it loaded up and it's waiting for these guys to pull in. As soon as these guys get pulled in, this one's told to go, and they all go together. So while these guys are racing around the track, you have these guys offloading and loading up. And this is the one we were riding from the very beginning. We started here, we launched off, and then we ended up over here, and then we did cinematic, and then we went over here and we did chase. And by the time we're done, we ended up here, and now we're offloading. So these are brand new guests. These guests have already been around once, and these guests have been around twice. And once they're done, that'll be their 3rd run, and they'll end up here. So it's a continuous cycle, but each rider gets to experience 3 different experiences. Now they all are a little bit similar in the sense that they are all synchronized and moving together, which is cool, but I want to point out the potential here and how cool this concept is and the different things you can do with it. Like I said, you could color each one of the tracks differently because you can color individual tracks even on the same coaster. You can color segments. So you would actually highlight one entire segment up until the station here, and you would color that maybe red or something, and then you could highlight the next segment up to the station here, color that green, and then what you could do is have them actually veer off and do different things, kind of like exploration coasters or whatever. One goes off to the left, one goes off to the right, one goes underground, and then they meet back up. So there's tons of fun things you can do with this, and the complexity and the entertainment value in terms of a spotlight or riding it and putting it down in your parks, I think it's a lot greater than a triple synchronized coaster. And the complexity, it's much more of a greater feat once you pull it off. And like I said, it's not too hard. Maybe I'll have a link in the description or down at the bottom, at the end of the video will pop up to the tutorial on how I did it. And the most important part is lining these stations up perfectly. And I showed a neat little trick that you can do that, where you can just kind of build a segment of the track, slide it, and then bring it in, and they're going to be perfectly aligned. And then getting that timing down where they leave all at the same time is also key, but pretty easy to pull off. Once you have that, you can just do whatever you want with the track, and it's a matter of testing it and seeing how well they're coming back together. And if one's just ahead of the other, what you can do is just reduce the track length on some of the other ones so they pull in together, or on the next inversion or the next turn, you bring the one that's ahead into the inside, that way, or on the outside, so that way it gets behind. So it's actually quite easy to manage once you get the hang of it, if you can wrap your head around the beginning initial concept. So very fun. I've been doing a lot of talking in this video. I really do like this coaster, so got me pretty excited today. We're gonna ride this at daytime and give it one more go. Holy moly, that is awesome. It's interesting to see how competitive he kept those throughout the different perspectives. I was trying to get a gauge on who was ahead, who was behind, but they all come in and finish at the same time. They leave at the same time, they finish like identical, but sometimes one pulls ahead and then the other two pull behind and back and forth. So it's competitive the whole way through, and it's really hard to gauge if one is clearly ahead for longer because it quickly falls behind. So it actually is really competitive for all three coasters, and I absolutely love that. So quite a marvelous design here today by AdriaanVanS. So really good job there. Great creation. Glad you took some inspiration from my videos. Glad to have you a part of this wonderful community. So there you go, everybody. That's Delta Blaster by Adrian, and that's going to do it for this episode of Coaster Spotlight. If you guys enjoyed, please be sure to smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe for more daily Planet Coaster videos. And if you'd like to support the show to keep it going, you can do so by becoming a patron. All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.